The NBA is getting to that point. About a month left to go until the playoffs. There are only a few teams that are technically qualified to win the championship this year if we're going by the 40-20 rule. You've got the Thunder, you've got the Spurs. We've gone back and forth about the Celtics because they got to 39-20, but then they won a couple of games. So do they technically qualify? I'm going to say yes. The Detroit Pistons also in that mix. So really you're looking at four teams based on that famous rule of the NBA. However, if you look at odds, courtesy of FanDuel Sportsbook, you got the Thunder at plus 125 to repeat. So not that far off of a 50% chance. Then a two-way tie between two teams, both in second place in their conference, who we saw play each other a couple of days ago, Spurs and the Celtics, both 6-1. Then it's the Nuggets and the Cavaliers at 10-1, the Knicks at 17-1. And then it is the conference leading Pistons down at 18-1, 6 teams above them, despite being first in the odds. Then you have a bit of a drop off. You get to the Rockets, the Timberwolves, and then there's a huge drop off, and it gets to the Lakers, the Hornets, the Sixers. So you're a Boston guy, so I think I know your answer, but it is a fair answer. Let's go conference by conference. How are you feeling about the East?
I feel like the Celtics are going to win the East. I feel like the revenge tour is just right there, and they should win the East realistically. If Jayson Tatum continues to play to the level he is at and not on a minutes restriction, I know he didn't play last night, and they still almost beat Oklahoma City. But if you can get the team playing as well as they had been playing before Jayson Tatum, now adding him into the mix, I think it presents a lot of challenges. You go back to last year, the Celtics were the hands-down favorite to win the East. They obviously got upset by the New York Knicks, and the Knicks were 8-1 on the series price to advance, right? So like that shouldn't have happened. So you got the same team, not the same team back. You lost a lot, but the guys that you've replaced them with have kind of risen to the occasion. Peyton Pritchard's become one of the best, not best players in basketball.
One of the best sixth men for sure.
One of the best sixth man in basketball, and you're getting him, like you're paying him a lot of money, but you're paying him literally nothing in NBA terms. So I think there's no reason why the Celtics should not win the East. I'm not afraid of the Cavs. If you get a Celtics-Knicks matchup once again, I find it hard to believe that the Celtics are going to lose to the Knicks in a 7-game series, especially how it went last year. Jayson Tatum, tearing the Achilles in that series. I think if you get that, it's Celtics in 5, genuinely. I think they're going to leave no doubt in that one. I'd be afraid of the Pistons a little bit at plus 470. But for the most part, I think the Celtics do control their path in the East, and they should be the favorites going into it. Especially, too, you look at like Cleveland at plus 280. Like, I'm not afraid of Cleveland one bit.
So I'm with you. I think the Celtics are in the driver's seat in the Eastern Conference right now. I disagree with you on their worst matchup. Look, I love the Pistons. I bet them to beat the Knicks. It didn't happen, but I had them at plus 2.5 series price, and they went to 7 games with the Knicks, so they made me a lot of money. So I like the Pistons. I just don't think they match up well at all against Boston. They're so reliant on Cade's creation, and Jalen Duren is come on strong. Yes, and they have some more shooting with Duncan Robinson. I get it, but just the way that the game actually plays out, that favors Boston. I actually do think the Knicks are still the worst matchup for this team because you have to remember the Knicks were built to stop Boston. We see this team is built to beat this team. And then that gets to a certain situation where it's like, okay, well, you didn't even get to play that team because you lost early on because you weren't ready for them. But that's how the Knicks were constructed. You got the long, versatile wings that have switched defenders. You got OG, you got Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, even throw him in that mix so you can switch on to Tatum, you can switch on to Brown, do all this different stuff, blah, 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 blah. Karl-Anthony Towns can punish mismatches. He can move his feet. He's a more mobile big man. So I still think they're in a series. I think they are the biggest challenge for the Celtics. But I do think the Celtics would win that series. My only source of concern here is actually Jayson Tatum. And, I mean, you and I have talked about Tatum for years now and the way that he slows down the Celtics offense. And on the bad Tatum nights, it's just brutal. So I'm giving him grace. I'm not saying anything bad about his play or anything like that because he's 3 games back from a torn Achilles. I didn't expect him to play well. But let's look at what's happened in those games. He played 27 minutes in all 3 of them. 6 of 16, 37%. 6 of 16, 37%. 10 of 24, 41%. He's come back, and he has immediately put Jaylen Brown behind him in the pecking order. And maybe if we're in the best if we're looking at the best possible version of the Celtics, that's where he should be. It should be Tatum ahead of Brown. But Jaylen Brown was having an MVP level year, averaging nearly 30 points per game. The Celtics were playing an extremely high level basketball. And then Tatum comes back in and he's just getting up every single shot that he sees. So my fear is that he continues to do this, but the efficiency doesn't return because he is so closely removed to just getting back out on the court. And I think he could shoot the Celtics out of a game or even shoot them out of a series.
Yeah, I mean, I do have my fears about that, but at the same time, too, that's kind of how they have played. They've won a championship doing that, right? Like
But
Jayson Tatum
so
being
what
the
I
guy.
was saying, Jaylen Brown was the best player on that team when that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got to figure out how to play together. I think that's the biggest thing, and they've gotten so much better at it. So I think right now, if you are Jayson Tatum, maybe you're hucking up shots because you just need to get your flow back and get your rhythm going. But the Celtics play well together, and I don't necessarily have my fears if we got into a matchup with the Knicks in the playoffs. Like I do think at that point the team has learned to play well enough together where you're giving it to the hot hand. This isn't the Celtics of 3-4 years ago where it's like who we got to trade, right? We're trading Jaylen Brown because we can't keep them both, sort of thing.
Yes, they can obviously coexist. They won a championship together, so I would never say that they can't. But Tatum has just come back and basically Lil Bro'd Jaylen Brown, and I'm not even a Jaylen Brown guy. I'm not a Celtics guy, but I'm just looking at him like I don't know if he feels compelled to try to find his rhythm, like you were saying. I don't know if he's trying to remind everybody that he is the alpha dog, but Brown was playing so well. The Celtics were playing so well, and he has disrupted the way that they play basketball. I mean, they're 2-1 in those games. The one loss is to the Spurs. So, like, it is what it is. It's not bad, but I just hope that they can find what they're actually supposed to be versus Tatum just throwing them up.
Game on the line. I want the ball in Jayson Tatum's hand. I don't care if it's
this
coming
season.
off.
I want it in Jaylen Brown's hands, no doubt.
Jayson Tatum's hand. Coming off an Achilles, I don't care. I want it in Jayson Tatum's hands. Like I do not care. Do not care one bit. Give it to Jayson Tatum. He's the face of the franchise. It's not Jaylen Brown.
Let's move over to the Western Conference here. So the Thunder, as I said at the top, they lead NBA Finals odds at plus 125. They are, they are minus 140 to win the West, according to FanDuel, which I think is insanely disrespectful, but that's a different topic. And I will also say this, to be fair here, the big challengers to the Thunder are the Spurs and the Nuggets. They're going to have to play each other because of the way that the standings go, right? I mean, you've got the Spurs. Actually, I take that back. I'm looking at it, and the Los Angeles Lakers are the 3 seed. I do think the Nuggets will end up getting the 3, which is probably the worst thing for them because, again, you would have to play the Spurs and then the Thunder. But if there's a world where you get the Thunder as the 4 or the 5, then the Nuggets as the 4 or the 5, then they would have to be playing the Thunder in the second round, and it would be the Spurs who would kind of be able to cruise to the conference conference finals.
The West is so tough in the sense of like you still have Minnesota in there, and Anthony Edwards can go off on any night and create a series. Like Denver, San Antonio, OKC. Like if San Antonio and Denver have to play each other before a series with the Thunder, like that's going to be brutal. So there's just so much talent in the West, which makes it really hard to predict. But that's also why I don't think the Thunder should be minus 140. Like it doesn't matter who you get, you're still going to have a really tough series. And like if you're thinking they're minus 140 right now, what's their series price going to be against the Spurs? Minus 180, right? Like it's not even worth touching, obviously, if you like the Thunder to win, because if they went down 0-1 in a series, you would get them for a better price than minus 140, I imagine, in the Western Conference Finals. But the fact that they're minus 140 right now is very disrespectful to the rest of the league, because I could see, there's a world where obviously Denver knocks them off in a 7-game series. There's definitely a world where the Spurs can do it. And I think Minnesota could do it too if things went their way.
We hadn't even talked about the Rockets either. And I wouldn't pick them to beat OKC, but they've been playing a really high brand of basketball. They're a big physical team, and they've got Kevin Durant, who's capable of doing whatever in the playoffs. So they'd be a tough team too.
Yeah, no, it's loaded. What do you think of LA? They got any chance?
No, they don't. They do not have a chance. I'll give you a pick right now. Since we're here, since we're talking about it. We both picked the Celtics out in the East. I bet the San Antonio Spurs to win the NBA Finals at plus 3,500. They opened at plus 6,000. They're down to plus 600. So financially, I'm invested in the Spurs. But I'll be honest, when I watch them play, the Spurs are my pick to win the NBA Finals right now. And it's a combination of several factors. My biggest concern, I guess you could say, is Wemby's conditioning. I know the intensity with which he plays, but the Spurs have been so cautious at some points. Like, he plays 39 minutes against the Pistons. This is at the back at the start of March. They have a back-to-back the next night, and he only plays 22 minutes because they want. I don't know if you could hear that. Sorry, I think I had some ESPN tab stuff going. So they basically only allow him to play 22 minutes. They take it easy. He's sitting out second nights of back-to-backs, and he's 7'4". He plays super intense. It comes with the territory, I guess, but you can't do that in the playoffs. You have to be 35, 40, 45 minutes every single time that there's a game. And against the Thunder, against the Nuggets, against the Rockets, against the Celtics, if you get that far, the Knicks, whoever, the Pistons, it's going to be extremely physical, and they need him on the court.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you saw it kind of too in the All-Star game, how he played. Like, he was really intense, but like 3-4 possessions went by and he was slow to get up the floor. Like, there was definitely a little bit of a lag in conditioning there for him.
But I mean, the Spurs, they have played the Thunder 5 times. Shouldn't be more than 4, but they played in the NBA Cup, and they beat them in all of them. All but one. I believe the Thunder won 1, and I think Wemby might have sat out of that game, if I'm not mistaken. They've played the Knicks in the NBA Cup final. They beat them. They've stood up really well against the best teams in the league. And they had won 15 of their last 16 games until last night. They lose by 5 to the Nuggets, but they were leading almost the entire game without Wemby, as Stephon Castle goes for 30. And so I look at them and just the way that they play, the youth, the energy, the depth, the experience, the lack thereof is the only thing. That's the only knock. And that is a big knock. Don't get me wrong, but I think they are extremely well positioned to compete this year.
Stephon Castle, so good. That UConn team a couple of years ago.
So good, dude.
It's on that UConn team, when you really think about it, it's unfair how good they actually were with all the pro talent they had.
Yeah, Stephon Castle, I mean, he's become an elite point of attack defender. He averages 17 points. He averages close to 8 assists. He can get you a triple-double some nights. If Wemby's not playing, he can go for 30. Like, yeah, this team has got it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And two, I look at the wins over the Thunder with the spreads. Like, they were winning games outright as like 9-point dogs. And I know that would change as we got to the NBA final or to the Western Conference Finals or whatever, because, obviously the Spurs have proven themselves in terms of the market. But they're winning as 9-point underdogs against the Thunder after beating them the first time, and people saying they got no chance. That was a Christmas Day game. I think they were a 9-point dog and ended up winning outright. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Spurs are the team. They're obviously the value pick. I look at the Thunder's championship run last year. It was a very fake championship run, or just not an overly impressive championship run. They're going to have to prove it this year to get it done, whether it's in the West against the Spurs, or if they do win the West and get to the East and they got to play the Celtics in the NBA Finals. Like, it's going to be a tough run for them this year for sure.
And there hasn't been a back-to-back NBA Finals champion since the Warriors dynasty, and that was a dynasty. And the team before that was the Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Shea's going to win back-to-back MVPs. The dude is amazing, but the Thunder as a team aren't that.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Grant. So who is the pick to win it all? Are you on the Spurs? I know we'll change.
Beat the Celtics in the finals for me.
Spurs beat the Celtics. I think if the Celtics get to the finals against the Spurs, I think the Celtics win it, because the storyline. You got to factor in the story. Jayson Tatum coming back, the way they went out last year, you beat the Knicks, and it looks like they'll play the Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals right now. So if that were the case, you go through them, you go through whoever and going against in the finals. Maybe it's the Cavs, maybe it's the Pistons, and then you go on and you win the NBA Finals and you get another banner.
Well, Fun times ahead. About a month until the playoffs. We'll see what happens.
NBA playoffs are okay. That's my take.
There are a lot of the first round can be no. I mean, the 4-5 is usually a lot of fun in the first round because you'll get a feisty team. But the 1-8, the 2-7, you usually already know what's going to happen.
The problem with the NBA playoffs is they are way too long. Like we start whenever they start, right, a month, right? So they start in April and they go through we're almost at July 4th by the time this thing ends.
It might be different this year though, because the Hornets are going to be in the play-in, and the Hornets are fun. Like the Hornets could win a few playoff series from the play-in.
I'm just talking about sometimes we got 3 days between games. Like it should be max 2 days, 1 day.
Yeah, the NBA finals can drag on a little bit.
Yeah. Like when I thought there might have been 4 days at one point last year. Like it's insane.
I don't know about 4, but they'll do some 3
3
for travel. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, that was Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. Fun show today. Talked about a lot, a couple basketball segments, of course, a football segment as well. So we appreciate you guys joining. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Check out WSN.com, the World Sports Network. A lot of writing on there, a lot of good content, betting previews, betting picks, analysis, all that stuff. And Grant, why don't you take us out of here?
That's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Tanner and I appreciate you all being here. Make sure you guys do hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe so you never miss out on our future uploads. And we'll catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.